Hello, this is the first video that I'm recording to demonstrate Erbium testing framework. So basically, Erbium has several features and it can import directly from Postman, but we are not going to see a Postman import in this video. We're going to create our API from scratch. I'm using here the Erbium client repository, which is a demo repository, uh, where we're going to see how to create APIs from scratch. And I'll put the link to this repository down in the description of the video. So let's get started. So first thing, I'll create a class, and this will be a JUnit class for testing, and I'll call it no postman import. Okay, so Erbium works with the concept, it works better when you have a factory pattern, so you can share all the APIs, your source of truth to the entire company or to projects, tribes, or specific squads, etc. In this case, I'll just create a before each, and I'll say public void setup. Erbium works with the concept of workspaces and collections and endpoints. So a workspace contains one of our collections, which in turn contains or contain endpoints. So let's create the workspace here. Okay, so now let me check this. So I'll say that the workspace equals new workspace. So we can always start fresh. And from this workspace, I will add a collection that will name as my fake store without postman collection. Okay, and now I want to add an endpoint. Let me show where I'm getting this from. So here I'm using Postman just as a template, but I'm creating from scratch. I'm not importing from Postman because the import from Postman is just one method and it's all imported. So we're creating APIs from scratch. So let's have a look at this. This is a collection. It's publicly available, and it's not mine. It's outside. And we'll be creating the login and the get products endpoints. And here we have the environment variables. In the body, we also have environment variables. And in the headers, we have this authorization and an access token. This is not actually required. This will go just for demonstration purposes. And in the body, as I said, we have the environment variables as well. And in the get products, I do have here an authorization bearer token, but this isn't required at all. But we're going to demonstrate that we can get the token from the previous request and populate the environment variable using Erbium framework. And this is a get, so there is no body here. Okay, so let's get started. So at the endpoint, I'll call it login for the first endpoint. I have to specify the request type with a JSON, which is a JSON. Erbium is adding new request types. Just like in Postman, you have, say, URL encoded forms multi-part file uploads, and XML and JSON. In this case, we have JSON and we have the URL encoded forms, but XML and other types are not supported yet, or not fully supported. In the case of XML, it should work. Now, I'll do a set host, and this is merely informative because what really matters here is the URL. And the URL will contain the host and the path to the URL, to the request, and the method of this request is post. And I'm going to add a header that is not required just for demonstration purposes. And it contains the value that will be in access token. And now I need to specify the body, but as I said, the body can be in different formats. So as you're using JSON request, now I can set the body from here. And I'll create this body from scratch. So I'll do the curly braces here, open and close. And remember that we have in the login, we have username and password set as username and user password. I'm not going to copy and paste here. I'll do all from scratch. So I'll do username. I don't have to place double quotes around. Erbium will fix this for us. So I'll just say username and password will be user password environment variable, and I have to close the quotes. So after that, in this Fluent interface, I'm dealing with the body, so now I have to go back to the endpoint level to continue to do something on this endpoint. I will do a keyword set. I'll explain this. This is a special trigger that executes after the response is received. It sets an environment variable unconditionally to a primitive value that is found in the response. Obviously, there are many ways and many types of scripts that you can create and add to Erbium that are more sophisticated. But for very simple scenarios where you want to store simple values like this, that you want to parse from the response, the QR set is definitely a very easy way to do. And well, now I'm done with the first endpoint, and I'm back to the collection level, so I can add another endpoint. And this endpoint will be called get products, and again it will be a JSON, and I will set the host, and I will set the URL. The URL of the to get products is simply like this. The URL for getting products is just host products. So let's go and write this here. And what else? I think we should set the method, and the method will be a get, and we're done with the initial setup. A very simple setup. Not the most recommended approach, but just for demonstration purposes. So now we are going to create our test and say public void test. And in this test, I will say workspace. And I need need to refer to the collection. So there is a short handle here to get the collection. So the collection I created is my fake store without Postman collection. And now I have to set the environment variables because things are not going to work without them. So to set the environment variables, I just use set, and now what environment variable? Say the host, and I'll set it as HTTP, and this will be fakestoreapi.com. This is a public face URL and it doesn't belong to me. I'm just using it for the demo purposes here. I have to set the username environment variable. It doesn't matter if I do this or not. It will work regardless. And the username, well, I know this to work, so I'll do this username, and I know a password that I want to work, which is user password, and this password is 83R5, this little thing here, underline, and it's done. And now I'll set that access token, and I will put anything here. Okay. So now my test needs to be run. So to run a test, I need to know which endpoint. Suppose I have 20 endpoints here and I want to submit only 2. So I will select the endpoints that I want to submit. So in this case, I will select the login endpoint. And now I will select the get products endpoint. And for all selected endpoints, I will do the following. I will do endpoint.submit. Okay. And this finishes the test. Let's see what it says here. Okay, it says here that I can replace lambda with method reference, which makes things more simple. And now I'm ready to run this test. So as you can see, it's printing here the environment variables that I defined. It's posting according to what I defined. And I get a response, I get the time, and I got this 201, which is probably because I'm using this authorization here that it's totally fake and it doesn't add to the equation here. And then remember that we set a special trigger that parses a primitive value in the response and stores it in an environment variable. So now for the get products, I do have here my token. But I didn't add this token to the headers. So if I look here, get products, headers, I have this bearer token. So I'm gonna do this now. Bearer token in the as a header here. So I'll add this header to be authorization, and it will contain bearer and the value of the environment token. So that should work later. So let's see if this is true or not. So post, now in the get products, I have the authorization, bearer, and exactly the endpoint exactly the token that's, that I got from the first endpoint submission. Okay, that's it. So that concludes um, our first Hello World, and I hope you enjoyed. There's a lot of customizations that can be made, including how you output to the console, to reports. You can use any report that you want in any repository that you have using different testing frameworks. So, see you next time.